Todd Onstadt, State Representative. How are you doing today?
Great to be back in the studio with you.
Yeah, well, you haven't been in here in a while. Well, one of the things that piqued your interest in mine is something I put up on my Facebook wall. And I love this author, Charles P. Pierce, for Esquire, because he does refer to Scott Walker. And I'm going to read this verbatim. The goggle-eyed homunculus hired by Koch Industries to run their Midwest subsidiary, formerly known as the state of Wisconsin. This is how this guy starts every article. And he's very critical of the governor here. And he's talking about a certain few points. Again, it brings up points of interest every time this article comes out. This is the third or fourth one I think I've posted by this guy. And we're going to talk about exactly what's going on when and now. Is the John Doe stuff over?
Well, the John Doe stuff was officially over at one point when the Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled that they would go ahead and end that discovery. But when they did that, they also ruled that all of the evidence should be destroyed, and that was overruled. So the evidence was still there, and of course it was recently leaked to the British newspaper, The Guardian.
The Guardian picked this up.
And there's approximately 1,300 pages, and it's really kind of a combination of confirmation of what a lot of us believed and thought, and also revelation of some new information.
Which would be what?
Well, there's a lot of kind of specific new information, and the one that has gotten the most press is that NL Industries, who are the largest lead paint manufacturers in the country, donated $750,000 at a time when the legislature was in the process of changing the law and the governor was in the process of signing the law that would make it impossible for people who have been poisoned with lead paint to sue the manufacturer. There's that $750,000. There's another $500,000 where Gogebic Mining, it was known that they had donated $700,000.
I'm going to interrupt. Are they taconite miners, or is that more up in the Minnesota area there?
It was going to be a lead mine.
Lead mine.
It was a lead mine. They had never done a lead mine before, but they essentially wrote legislation that was passed in my first term. Actually, it was AB 1 at the time in my first term. It was the kind of keystone bill of the administration at the time, and that basically weakened environmental laws to allow for this mine to go forward. It eventually never did.
Where was it supposed to be again?
It was supposed to be just a little bit north of Hurley.
Okay, so quite far north.
Way north, way big, and way dangerous in terms of the.
Was it on any Native American lands whatsoever?
Actually, the poisoned water would flow onto the Bad River Indian Reservation.
And they protested mightily, if I remember correctly.
All of the Native American tribes protested mightily, as did the environmentalists, as we did in the legislature, and eventually the company ended up coming to the same conclusion after the EPA and everybody ruled and told them that there was just too much wetland to put the proposed mine there. But what came out in the Guardian article was that it wasn't just $700,000 that was given to the administration, but there was an additional $500,000.
By the same corporation?
By the same corporation. But something that has a little local Kenosha twist to it.
Okay.
Sheldon Adelson, who, of course, is the gambling magnate from Las Vegas.
Who had the eighth richest man in the world?
Something like that. Mm-hmm. And he had a significant interest in a casino, not being in Kenosha, because he didn't really want people from Chicago and Milwaukee not flying out to Las Vegas.
This is a huge market.
Huge market. Well, he interestingly also gave $200,000 to these essentially shadow groups, dark money, to the Walker administration after Scott visited him in Las Vegas.
That we talked about that, and you know where I stood on that casino issue, and it was stunned. I shouldn't say stunned, but dismayed when he made his decision almost off the cuff prior to going into Iowa for a debate, correct? Wasn't that it? And now, when did the Adelson money come in?
Well, it would have been before, I believe, the decision to scuttle the project.
And how much was that again?
$200,000.
$200,000, and that was to the Scott Walker campaign?
No, I believe it was probably to the Wisconsin Club for Growth, and that's where a lot of the money goes. That's where the money went. And What was being alleged in the John Doe investigation was that the governor's office was illegally coordinating this dark money going into these shadow groups that ostensibly weren't backing any particular candidate, but obviously were endorsing the Scott Walker agenda.
This is so cloak and dagger that a lot of people that are listening right now don't really understand exactly what's going on here. When you're talking about shadow groups, they are groups that are formed and on both sides of the political fence, if I may say. But in this case, we're talking about Scott Walker and Wisconsin Republicans mostly. I shouldn't say mostly, specifically.
Specifically.
That organizations are formed or groups are formed, and then they become cash buckets or baskets of cash that can find its way towards political campaigns and or issues.
Exactly. And at this particular time, it was illegal for a candidate to directly coordinate with these groups. Now, since that time, and the John Doe investigation was investigating whether or not the governor had coordinated directly with these groups. Since that time, they, of course, have changed the law to make it legal for candidates to know.
Was that after the Supreme Court decision? Or
it was in the last legislative session.
Oh, here in Wisconsin.
In Wisconsin.
Okay.
So here we have a situation where this John Doe investigation is now will now be considered by the U.S. Supreme Court, probably sometime within the next month. And now with this revelation just on Wednesday, all 1,300 pages are open for anybody to read on the internet.